The Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer has been caught red-handed violating her own COVID restrictions. In this video, we're going to take a look for ourselves at this photograph that's become an utter embarrassment for this ultra-left governor. How Big Gretch is but the latest leftist politician to get caught violating their own decrees, and how such violations are fueling a massive populist revolt like never before. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you. As always, we are your daily antidote to fake news, as each and every day we analyze current events in light of larger conservative trends to help you think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Before we begin, let's give a huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, and that is the backup solar bank. In the midst of this whole emergency situation we found ourselves in, one of the best things that we can invest in for our home protection when the lights go out is what's called a solar power bank. It's a backup power bank that's powered, you guessed it, by the sun. It allows you to charge up to 2 devices at once, and you'll never have to waste money on batteries again. That supply is limited, and this is your very last chance to get yours at a 20% discount before they sell out. So do not wait. Click on that link below right now and give you and your family the gift of power anywhere in the world. Click on that link below or visit backupsolarbank.com. That's backupsolarbank.com. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. Oh my, she did it again. Big Gretch got caught again. In a Breitbart exclusive, a photograph surfaced of the ultra-left Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer violating her own coronavirus orders at a bar in East Lansing. A photo clearly shows the governor in the midst of a gathering of 13 people, all together, no social distancing, not a single person wearing a mask. Now, the problem, of course, is that such a gathering actually violates the governor's own order, limiting the number of people that can gather at one time for eating and drinking in public establishments. Quote, consumption of food or beverages is permitted only in a designated dining area where patrons are seated. Groups of patrons are separated by at least 6 feet. No more than 6 patrons are seated together at a table, booth, or group of fixed seats, and groups of patrons do not intermingle. Well, we could see from the photo that Whitmer is clearly violating her own executive order. What makes it even worse is that a friend of Whitmer, who posted the photo on her social media originally, actually deleted the photo and then reposted, but with Whitmer edited out. So they knew this was a blatant violation of the governor's own executive order. They knew it. And they knew that content creators like yours truly would have a field day with this, which of course we are, and a well-deserved one for reasons that we'll develop in a moment. So she got caught red-handed, and she had no choice but to issue a public apology. Quote, yesterday I went with friends to a local restaurant. As more people arrived, the tables were pushed together. It's not my fault. Because we were all vaccinated, we didn't stop to think about it. In retrospect, I should have thought about it. I'm human. I made a mistake, and I apologize. Now, of course, Big Gretch is apologizing only because she freaking got caught. But she also has the groveling mainstream media out there to give her cover, which they have faithfully and dutifully done. I mean, can you even conceive what the media's response would be if someone like Kristi Noem or Ron DeSantis have been caught violating their own COVID decrees, their own executive orders? And to make matters even worse, this is not the first time Gretchen has done this. Back in March, when Michigan residents were being instructed by her not to travel during the height of the coronavirus pandemic, Whitmer chartered a private jet to travel to West Palm Beach, Florida, to spend the weekend with her ailing father. To this day, Whitmer still refuses to answer questions as to who actually funded that trip, who specifically bankrolled that private jet at the cost of upwards of $30,000. So obviously Whitmer is in the hypocritical hot seat, and as such, she joins a growing list of ultra-leftist politicians who impose rules on the masses from which they exempt themselves. This is why Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is in such trouble and is facing a recall vote. Newsom was humiliated when he was caught attending a birthday party for one of his colleagues in a restaurant that violated his own COVID-19 restrictions. Pictures of the event showed Newsom participating in a party that was clearly held indoors. Nobody was wearing masks, and it was far beyond the gathering limit of 3 households together at a single time. And of course, back in September of last year, not to be outdone, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi violated San Francisco's own lockdown orders. Security camera footage leaked exclusively to Fox News showed Pelosi at a hair salon. She had come for a wash and blowout, even though local ordinances closed all hair salons, allowing them only to do business outside. Pelosi was clearly seen walking indoors through the San Francisco salon with wet hair, and if you can believe it, if you can even conceive it, I kid you not, she wasn't even wearing a mask. In fact, everyone else on the security camera footage is wearing a mask but Nancy. And this was right after Pelosi herself told us that not wearing a mask is a slap in the face of science. So what's really going on here? What are we really seeing with all these leftist politicians blatantly violating their own orders, living out the dictum, rules for thee but not for me? Well, the irony in all this is that leftist politicians, in getting caught in the midst of their own privileged arrogance, these leftist politicians are only guaranteeing their own eventual demise. And that's because what Big Gretch got caught doing twice, by the way, what Gavin got caught doing, what Nancy got caught doing, all points to a far larger phenomenon than just hypocrisy or leftist arrogance. It all actually underscores the growing discrepancy, the increasing alienation between the ruling class and the ruled, the political class and the people, a discrepancy which is currently fueling a worldwide populist revolt like never before. Now, before we get into that, I do want to personally invite you to our brand new Patriot Entrepreneur Live event we're holding on June 4th and 5th. It is a virtual conference for anyone interested in learning how to break free from your woke work environment and become financially independent. The beauty is because it's a virtual event, you don't even have to leave the comfort of your own couch, and you can secure your seat simply by clicking on the link below. And for this week only, we've got a special giveaway for you. Ready for this? Anyone who purchases a gold or platinum ticket will be entered into a drawing for a one-on-one video call with yours truly, or shall I say yours Turley. That's right. Click on that link below right now and get entered into a drawing for a video call with me, your humble host. This offer ends this Friday night at midnight when ticket prices go up, so don't wait. Click on that link below right now, and I'll see you for a weekend that promises to be a game changer for your life like never before. All right, scholars have noticed that one of the key characteristics of globalism is the rise of what's called an expert class. Okay, so because globalist societies are technological societies, they foster a class of technological experts to oversee and govern a globalist society. And when this so-called expert class manifests itself in politics, it's given rise to something scholars call refeudalization. How's that for a term, right? We've talked about it before, refeudalization. The gist of it is that just as medieval society, feudal societies, governed according to the norms and wishes of a privileged class, lords and nobles and dukes and the like, so globalist societies are increasingly governed according to the interests and concerns and values of a political class. And here's the key. Those values, interests, and concerns are becoming increasingly alienated from the values, interests, and concerns of the people, the populace. And this is what's giving rise to the massive populist surge, not just here in the United States, but throughout the world. Because the permanent political class is increasingly alienated from the concerns and values of the people, what we're seeing is a new political animus opening up, a new political antagonism that's defined increasingly as the people versus the political class, the ruled versus the rulers, the ordinary citizen versus the oligarchs. I think a particularly good book that we featured actually in our monthly reading list for Insiders Club that you can join, by the way, by clicking on the link below. It's a book that first recognized this paradigm shift away from left versus right politics and towards the ruling class versus the people. It's a book written by the pollsters Scott Rasmussen and Doug Schoen entitled Mad as Hell. It was published back in 2010 during the height of the Tea Party movement, if you remember that. And Rasmussen and Schoen found substantial data here in the States that showed that there was, in fact, a major political paradigm shift taking place among the American electorate. And of course, I would argue among the world electorate, where the old political divides between left versus right and liberal versus conservative were dying away, and a new political divide between the people versus the ruling class, the populist versus the political, economic, and media elite. That was the new political divide that was opening up. And here in the States, of course, no one other than Donald Trump, right, more than any other presidential candidate, recognized that divide, and he became its emblematic champion for the people. And then across the pond, Brexit represented the apex of the political earthquake that began the process of toppling globalist governments in Poland and Hungary and Austria and Italy and Georgia and Brazil, and put all others on notice that the days of the globalist dictatorship are indeed numbered. Populist sentiments that are growing by the day are deeply suspicious of our elite class, our political, corporate, media, university elite, who are seen as ruling for their own benefit rather than for the benefit of those they claim to represent. And the key here is that the more globalist the world becomes, the more populism grows. And that's because the more globalist the world becomes, the more futilist it becomes, the more it's governed by the interests, values, and concerns of the permanent political class, as represented by Gretchen Whitmer and Gavin Newsom and Nancy Pelosi. And the more then we see this new class of lords imposing rules on us from which they exempt themselves, so they only end up further fueling the populist revolt. The growing divide between the political class and the people only further verifies and corroborates the populist concern that the world is increasingly ruled by a political elite who govern for their own benefit at the expense of the citizens they so-called claim to represent. It's no wonder that more and more scholars and pundits recognize that in many respects, the populist revolt is just begun. Now, before you go, you definitely want to check out my latest video. I just uploaded it, actually speaking of populist revolts, on how thousands upon thousands march in Toronto against lockdowns, as a new study shows that populism is absolutely surging in Canada. And we take a look at the latest marches where patriots across the Great White North are demanding an end to repressive COVID restrictions, how a number of pundits are recognizing a massive turn to the right among Canadians, and how one study in particular shows populist sentiments surging throughout the nation. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there.